Hello, and welcome to World of Warbirds. I'm Brian Pierce.
Hello, Warbirders. Firstly, I need to issue an apology. Way back in the Bowfighter episode, I kind of made fun of the Fairey Battle's name, and I'm not proud of it. Tinkerbell and Pixie Dust may have been mentioned, and I may have said that calling a warplane a battle was kind of like naming a ship HMS Floater or something like that. It was kind of a cheap shot, and I hope I make up for it with a good episode on her now. Let me know in the comments if I have. Let's dive in. It is strange to think of a warplane coming into existence due to a peace treaty, but that is what happened with the Fairey Battle. Let me explain. In the years following the First World War, there was a significant pressure to attempt to prevent such a horrible conflict from occurring again, with a series of arms-limiting conventions. The Washington Naval Treaty, signed on February 6, 1922, limited the total tonnage of warships that each country could possess, and the number and size of the big guns. Between 1925 and 1932, there were moves by the League of Nations to do the same thing with other weapons. In 1932, the Conference for the Reduction and Limitation of Armaments convened in Geneva, Switzerland, with this goal. It was in this very environment that the Fairey Battle was conceived. In April of 1933, the British Air Ministry issued a specification which was seeking a two-seat, single-engine monoplane day bomber to replace the Hawker Hart and Hind, which were obsolete and aging fabric-covered biplanes. The new aircraft was to be capable of carrying 1,000 pounds of bombs for 1,000 miles at a speed of 200 miles per hour and a ceiling of at least 22,000 feet. Due to the aforementioned Conference for the Reduction and Limitation of Armaments, there was a thought that heavy bombers would soon be banned outright or severely limited in size. Thus, this new, light, single-engine day bomber was seen by the Air Ministry as an insurance policy against any future limitations. Fairey Aircraft's Marcel Lobel was the chief designer for the new aircraft, and one of the first decisions made was the choice of a power plant. They went with a newly developed Rolls-Royce product known as the Merlin 1 engine. You may have heard of it. It seemed to offer a good power output as well as a slim frontal area for drag reduction. This was linked to a de Havilland-built three-bladed variable pitch propeller unit. The fuselage was all metal with a stressed skin and low-mounted cantilever monoplane wing. The only fabric coverings were on the ailerons, elevator, and rudder. The main undercarriage was retractable, as well as the tail wheel, which wasn't always the case with aircraft from this era. The result of all of this was the airplane was very sleek and clean. Although the crew was originally supposed to be two, with each man having his own canopy, as seen on the Bowfighter. The crew requirement was upped to 3 by the Air Ministry, with their tasks being pilot, observer bomb aimer, and radio operator air gunner. The 2 canopy plan was swapped for a long greenhouse style one, which was found to have less drag. 4 250-pound bombs could be carried in cells within the wings. The bombs were mounted on hydraulic jacks, and during a dive bombing attack, they were to be lowered below the surface of the wing. 2 additional bombs could be mounted on under-wing racks. As for guns, the battle would have a single fixed 303 Browning machine gun mounted in the right wing for the pilot, and a single 303 machine gun in the rear cockpit for the gunner. Are you starting to get a bad feeling about this? Yeah, I am too. It seems like a lot of airplane, crew, and load for only one engine, albeit the mighty Merlin, and only one forward-firing 303 MG and one rear gun. I don't know if I'd want to take on a Canada Goose with this thing. Anyway, we're not the only ones with misgivings. Both Fairey and the Air Ministry were worried too. But nonetheless, on the 10th of March 1936, the first Fairey prototype took to the air, and the prototype then entered service trials. Maximum speed was 257 miles per hour, which was even better than had been requested. The aircraft was found to be easy to fly, great visibility for the crew with a comfortable cockpit. One bad feature was the heating and cooling for the crew. It was supposed to be pretty bad, with the pilot baking in the front and the other two shaking in the back. But as I said before, there were misgivings. The Air Ministry was already figuring that it was not going to be the airplane to do the job for which it was intended. It just wouldn't have the performance and range needed to strike at Germany, which was now flexing its aviation muscles. So why did they go ahead with it? Here's the reason. When the Air Ministry realized just how far along the Luftwaffe was in rearmament, there was a scramble to try to catch up. As the whole disarmament limitation thing looked like it wasn't going to happen, they would have preferred to have the larger twin-engined Whitleys, Wellingtons, and Hamptons, but those weren't ready yet. It was a question of the airplane you'd like to have versus the one you've already got. And so the Air Ministry decided to ask for a lot of cheap and ready-to-go battles. They mollified their decision with the idea that the battles could at least keep up with the Luftwaffe's Henkel HE-51 and Arado AR-68 biplane fighters. The low range and bomb load of the battle was thought to be okay too. It could be based in France and hit Germany with 2 or 3 sorties a day, right? Big orders were drawn up for the battles. It started with a contract with Fairey for 155 airplanes, and then 500 more. 400 would be built by Austin, and even more orders were added on. In the end, 2,201 battles were built, even though everyone recognized that the concept was misguided and that the aircraft would be obsolete and mismatched against the Bf-109s that had now made themselves known. Fairey actually had another idea. They had wanted to build a twin-engine battle and had been pushing for it from the beginning. In fact, the whole aircraft had been designed with that in mind. Even the rearward folding main landing gear was designed with the thought of having an engine out in front. The fuselage assemblies, the outer wings, and the undercarriage were all designed to be common to both single-engine and twin-engine designs. The twin-engine nose would be switched to mount more formidable forward-firing armament. Just think about it. With this change, you would no longer have this pokey flying compromise, but something with more oomph like the Bristol Beaufighter and the flexibility of the Messerschmitt Bf-110. But the Air Ministry just wouldn't have it. They were worried about the supply of Merlin engines and also about switching production to the twin when they were needing lots of any kind of aircraft right away. There was even a joke at Fairey that the plane was named Battle over the fight to get the twin made. But that was going to be a losing battle, which I guess was some foreshadowing of some other aerial fights. The name actually even has more layers of meaning that point to the aircraft's identity issues. In those days, the RAF named bombers after places: Halifax, Manchester, etc. Fighters were given aggressive names like Fury, Hurricane, Spitfire. Fairey wanted the aircraft to be an aggressive fighter, so Battle worked. But it was meant to be a light bomber, so it should have had a place name. Well, it did. The town of Battle is in East Sussex, and it's a small market town named for the Battle of Hastings. Well played, Fairey. Well played. With the outbreak of war, 10 squadrons of battles were sent to France to form what was called the British RAF Advance Air Striking Force. and was meant to hit German industry in a kind of proto-strategic bombing attack, especially on the Ruhr Valley region. They also did aerial reconnaissance and made history on the 20th of September 1939 when a battle shot down a Messerschmitt Bf 109 for the very first RAF victory of the war. But this was going to be seen as a serious outlier in that score. That same day, 109s, which were 100 miles per hour faster, knocked down 2 battles. During the winter, some squadrons were equipped with more suitable Bristol Blenheims, but even so, when the Battle of France broke out, battles were asked to do tactical support for the BEF, something for which they had not been designed, nor their crews had been trained. As a result, the outcomes could be guessed. They didn't do much to blunt the Blitzkrieg, and they were getting slaughtered. And when I say slaughtered, I mean it. On the 12th of May, 5 battles of 12 Squadron attacked bridges over the Albert Canal. 4 of these aircraft were destroyed in the attack that was so suicidal that 2 posthumous Victoria Crosses were awarded for just pressing home on it. The 5th battle crashed on its way home. 2 days later, the advanced air striking force was sent out on an all-out attack by all bombers they had on the pontoon bridges at Sedan. Out of a strike force of 63 battles, 8 Blenheims, 35 battles, and 5 Blenheims were lost. In 6 weeks, almost 200 battles had been destroyed. This was no way to fight a war. The battles were withdrawn from the day bombing role, switched to night, or moved into less active theaters. It seemed like the battle's time was up. This video was written, narrated, and produced by a real human, me. If you like human narrators and hate AI slop, support the channel by becoming a member or sending me a super thanks, or at least just like and subscribe and hit the bell. It's really appreciated. I especially want to thank Andy Gray for his very generous super thanks. Let's continue. Oh no, the battle's time was not up. The Fairey Battle was one of those aircraft that, although it was a disaster in combat, it ended up having an excellent second and third career doing other things. The T model with dual controls was a great trainer, not only for pilots, but also for the gunner in the back and for bomber training. It was supposedly easy to fly and forgiving to new pilots. Speaking of gunnery, the TT model was used for target towing. Over 800 were transferred to the RCAF, and the RAAF got almost 400 for these types of duties. Battles also went to Belgium, Greece, Turkey, and were flown by Polish squadrons in the RAF. The battle was also used as a test bed for new engines, including the Bristol Taurus, Hercules, Napier Dagger, and Napier Sabre. Lastly, in terms of legacy, the battle was also used as a jumping off point for the design of 2 other Fairey naval aircraft, namely the Fulmer and the Firefly, both of which will get episodes one day. For an aircraft that was kind of a misguided misfit loser, the battle had a fairly long career, only being retired in 1949. It reminds me of the person who just hasn't found their role or place yet, but when they do, it's really kind of beautiful. Fairey Battle L5343 was not actually built by Fairey, but by Austin Motors' Shadow Factory at Longbridge, and then delivered to the RAF on the 13th of September 1939. In August, she participated in the aptly named Operation Frigidaire, where 9 Fairey battles, escorted by 2 short Sunderlands, undertook the 700-mile, 5.5-hour flight to Iceland. There they were to undertake coastal patrol duties. If a German invasion fleet should turn up, they were to attack it. On Friday the 13th of September 1940, Canadian Flying Officer Clayton Willie Wilcox was assigned the job of flying Lieutenant Colonel H.L. Davies of the Royal Engineers to a new airstrip. On the way, the engine failed in flight, necessitating a forced landing on a site near a glacier adjacent to a small lake. This was the first RAF aircraft to crash in Iceland. The crew walked some 70 kilometers and were rescued. On the 20th of January 1941, Fairey Battle L5343 was officially struck off charge. And there she sat until 1971. The remains of the aircraft and bits of fuselage, the engine, and even the pilot's seat, which had ended up being a seat for a local child's swing, were gathered up and brought to RAF Leeming, along with a prop and bits and pieces of other battles. Then began a long process of restoration, which finally ended with L5343 being displayed in the RAF Museum in London. She looks good for her age. If you enjoyed this video, please do your part and become a member of the channel, or drop me a super thanks, or at least just like and subscribe. It's really appreciated. Until next time.